It was a clear night, and the stars shone brightly in the night sky. Little did the people of Earth know that their world was about to change forever. Deep in the observatories around the globe, teams of astronomers were carefully monitoring the skies, as they did every night. They studied the positions of the stars, tracked the movements of planets, and searched for any unusual celestial activity. It was routine work, but essential for understanding the mysteries of the universe. On this particular night, one observatory in the United States made a startling discovery. The lead astronomer, Dr. Emily Harris, was reviewing the latest data when she noticed something out of the ordinary. There were several unidentified objects moving across the night sky, unlike anything she had seen before. "Get me the other telescopes on this," she commanded, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The other astronomers quickly adjusted their instruments, training them on the mysterious objects. As more data poured in, a realization dawned on them. These were not asteroids or comets, but something else entirely. Something not of this world. "My God," Dr. Harris whispered. "They're ships. Alien ships." The news spread quickly through the scientific community, and soon, governments around the world were alerted to the situation. Military commanders were called in, intelligence agencies began gathering information, and world leaders convened emergency meetings. In the Pentagon, General John Matheson pored over the latest reports, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Are we sure these aren't some kind of advanced military technology?" he asked, not quite willing to accept the implications of what they were facing. "I'm afraid not, sir," replied the chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "The size and maneuverability of these craft are unlike anything we've ever seen. They defy the laws of physics as we know them." General Matheson leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "Mobilize all available forces," he ordered. "I want every satellite, every radar, every asset we have focused on these visitors." Across the globe, similar scenes were playing out. In the halls of power, leaders grappled with the sudden and momentous implications of this discovery. What did it mean for the future of humanity? Were the aliens friendly, or did they pose a threat? In the bustling cities, people went about their daily lives, unaware of the extraordinary events unfolding in the skies above them. But that would soon change, as the news of the alien ships spread like wildfire through the media. Television networks interrupted their regular programming, their anchors' voices tinged with a sense of disbelief as they reported the unfolding events. Social media platforms were flooded with posts, speculation, and theories as people tried to make sense of the unprecedented situation. For many, the initial reaction was one of excitement and wonder. The idea of making contact with an alien civilization had long been the stuff of science fiction, and now it was becoming a reality. But as the gravity of the situation sank in, a sense of unease and apprehension began to take hold. In the corridors of power, the discussions were far more somber. Military strategists pored over the data, analyzing the capabilities of the alien ships and contemplating the potential consequences of an encounter. Political leaders weighed the diplomatic implications, considering how to approach this first contact with an extraterrestrial species. "We need to proceed with caution," the President of the United States said, her voice calm and measured. "These are uncharted waters, and we must be prepared for any eventuality." As the world held its collective breath, the alien ships continued to advance, their intentions still a mystery. The stage was set for a momentous and potentially perilous encounter between humanity and the visitors from the stars. The news of the alien ships had sent shockwaves through the global community, as the world's militaries and intelligence agencies scrambled to gather more information. Teams of scientists and experts were brought in to analyze the situation. In a secure government facility, a group of top military commanders and technical advisors gathered around a large table, poring over the latest data. General John Matheson, the same man who had ordered the mobilization of forces in the previous chapter, led the discussion. "All right, people, let's see what we're dealing with here," he said, his voice firm and authoritative. What can you tell me about the capabilities of these alien ships? A senior intelligence officer stepped forward, her expression serious. Based on the information we've gathered so far, the alien vessels appear to be considerably more advanced than anything we have in our own arsenal, she explained. Their propulsion systems defy our current understanding of physics, and their weapon capabilities seem to far exceed our own. General Matheson frowned, his brow furrowing in concern. So, you're telling me we're outmatched? That these aliens could easily overwhelm our defenses? The intelligence officer hesitated, clearly weighing her words carefully. Not necessarily, sir. While the alien technology is impressive, the actual size and numbers of their fleet seem relatively small. We may still have a chance to counter their forces if we can find a way to exploit their weaknesses. A scientist seated at the table leaned forward, his eyes alight with the thrill of discovery. That's precisely what we've been working on, he said. Our preliminary analysis of the sensor data suggests that these alien ships rely on a specific type of energy source that could potentially be disrupted or manipulated. General Matheson turned his attention to the scientist, his expression cautiously hopeful. Go on, he prompted. The scientist launched into a detailed explanation, his hands gesturing animatedly as he spoke. You see, the propulsion and weapon systems of the alien vessels appear to be powered by a form of exotic energy that we've never encountered before. If we can find a way to interfere with or disrupt this energy source, it may give us a tactical advantage. As the discussion continued, the mood in the room became more optimistic. The experts, while acknowledging the formidable nature of the alien technology, began to identify potential vulnerabilities and strategies for countering the extraterrestrial threat. Meanwhile, in the halls of government, world leaders grappled with the diplomatic implications of the alien encounter. Negotiations and communications were underway, as they sought to establish a line of dialogue with the visitors. We must proceed with caution, the President of the United States said, addressing her cabinet. These aliens may be peaceful, and we cannot afford to provoke a conflict unnecessarily. At the same time, we must be prepared to defend our planet and our people if needed. Across the globe, similar discussions were taking place as nations weighed their options and formulated contingency plans. The stakes were high, and the future of humanity hung in the balance. In the public sphere, the news of the alien ships continued to captivate the attention of the global population. Social media was ablaze with speculation and theories as people tried to make sense of the unfolding events. Some saw the arrival of the aliens as a positive development, a chance for humanity to make first contact and potentially learn from a more advanced civilization. Others, however, were gripped by fear and uncertainty, worried that the aliens posed a threat to the very existence of the human race. As the days passed, the tension in the air was palpable. The world held its breath, waiting to see what the alien visitors would do next and how the leaders of the planet would respond. In the shadows of the corridors of power, the strategists and tacticians continued to work tirelessly, exploring every possible avenue to counter the alien threat. They knew that the fate of the world might very well rest on their shoulders, and they were determined to do whatever it took to protect their home. The global community had been on edge for days, ever since the mysterious alien ships had been spotted in the night sky. Governments around the world were working tirelessly to gather intelligence and prepare for a potential encounter, but so far, there had been no direct communication from the extraterrestrial visitors. That all changed one afternoon, when a startling announcement was made. In the halls of the United Nations headquarters in New York City, the Secretary General had called an emergency meeting of the Security Council. As the world's leaders and representatives gathered, the tension in the room was palpable. Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary General began, his voice solemn, we have received a message from the alien ships. A hush fell over the assembly as the gravity of the situation sank in. All eyes turned to the large screen at the front of the room, where a translated version of the alien communication was projected. The message was brief and to the point. People of Earth, we are the Caltherans, a peaceful race from a distant galaxy. We have come to your planet to make a simple request. Surrender yourselves and your world to us, or face the consequences. A murmur of shock and disbelief swept through the room. The representatives of the various nations exchanged alarmed glances, their minds racing to comprehend the implications of this demand. The President of the United States, a seasoned statesman with a reputation for calm and measured responses, stood up and addressed the assembly. "This is an outrageous and unacceptable ultimatum," he declared, his voice firm. "We will not surrender our sovereignty or our freedom to any extraterrestrial power." His sentiments were echoed by the leaders of other powerful nations, who vowed to resist the alien demands and defend their homeworld at all costs. The tension in the room reached a fever pitch as the world's superpowers rallied against the Caltherans' ultimatum. Outside the halls of power, the general public was reacting with a mix of fear, anger, and defiance. News of the alien message had spread like wildfire, sparking a flurry of discussions and debates on social media and news outlets. Some people were gripped by panic, convinced that humanity was doomed to subjugation or annihilation. Others, however, were filled with a newfound sense of purpose and determination. They saw the alien threat as a call to arms, a rallying cry for the human race to unite and stand up for its rights. "We'll show those alien invaders what we're made of," one fiery commentator proclaimed on a live television broadcast. "We won't go down without a fight." As the world braced for a potential conflict, the military forces of the major powers were put on high alert. Troops were deployed, weapons were readied, and defensive strategies were meticulously planned. In the Pentagon, General John Matheson and his team of experts pored over the details of the alien message, searching for any clues or weaknesses that they could exploit. "They call themselves the Caltherans," the general mused, his brow furrowed in concentration. "That's an interesting bit of information. Perhaps we can use that to our advantage." The scientists and analysts nodded in agreement, their minds already whirring with ideas and possibilities. They knew that the fate of the world hung in the balance, and they were determined to do whatever it took to ensure humanity's survival. As the sun set on the divided planet, the people of Earth waited with bated breath, wondering what the next move would be. Would the aliens make good on their threat, or would humanity find a way to overcome this extraordinary challenge? The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the very limits of human ingenuity, resilience, and courage. The world had been rocked by the aliens' ultimatum, but the people of Earth were not about to surrender without a fight. Across the globe, governments and military forces were mobilizing to defend their homeworld against the extraterrestrial threat. In the war rooms and command centers, the best and brightest minds were working tirelessly to devise a strategy to counter the Caltheran invasion. General John Matheson, the seasoned military commander, was at the forefront of these efforts. "All right, people, let's go over the plan one more time," Matheson said, his voice firm and authoritative. "We know the alien ships are faster and more powerful than anything we've got, but we've also identified some weaknesses we can exploit." A team of scientists stepped forward, eagerly presenting the results of their analysis. "The Caltheran ships rely on a unique energy source that we believe we can disrupt," one of them explained. "If we can find a way to jam or overload their power systems, it could give us a significant advantage." Matheson nodded, his eyes narrowing as he considered the implications. "And what about our own capabilities? How do we stack up against them in terms of firepower and technology?" Another expert, a seasoned military strategist, stepped up to the plate. "We've been working around the clock to upgrade and enhance our existing weapons systems," he said. "Our fighter jets, tanks, and artillery have all been modified to take on the alien threat, and we've also developed some new experimental technologies that could give us an edge." The general's lips twitched into a faint smile. "Excellent. Then let's get to work. We need to be ready for when those alien bastards decide to make their move." As the planning and preparation continued, the people of Earth watched with a mix of fear and determination. The news of the impending battle had spread like wildfire, and citizens from all walks of life were stepping up to do their part. In factories and workshops, workers toiled around the clock to churn out the weapons and equipment needed for the fight. Volunteers signed up in droves to serve in the armed forces, eager to defend their home planet. And in the streets and town squares, people gathered to show their support and solidarity. Flags were waved, slogans were chanted, and a sense of unity and purpose emerged that had been absent for far too long. "We're not going to let those aliens take over our world," a young woman shouted, her voice filled with defiance. "We're going to show them what humanity is made of." The leaders of the world, sensing the growing groundswell of support, knew that they had to capitalize on this surge of morale. They appeared on television, rallying the people with rousing speeches and calls to action. "My fellow citizens, the time has come to stand up and defend our way of life," the President of the United States declared, her words echoing through the airwaves. "We will not be cowed by the demands of an alien invader. We will fight, and we will win." As the world prepared for the impending battle, the Caltheran ships continued to hover ominously in the sky, their presence a constant reminder of the looming threat. But the people of Earth were not about to go down without a fight. In the military command centers, the final preparations were being made. Matheson and his team had worked tirelessly to develop a comprehensive strategy, one that they believed could give humanity the edge it needed. "All right, listen up, everyone," the general said, his voice cutting through the tense silence. "This is it, the moment we've been waiting for. When those alien ships make their move, we'll be ready, and we're going to show them exactly why they shouldn't have messed with the human race." A cheer went up from the assembled troops, their spirits lifted by the general's unwavering confidence. They knew that the fate of the world rested on their shoulders, and they were determined to rise to the challenge. As the sun set on the eve of the confrontation, the people of Earth held their breath, awaiting the moment when their mettle would be tested. They were ready, and they were not about to go down without a fight. The tension in the air was palpable as the people of Earth awaited the next move from the alien Caltheran invaders. For days, the massive extraterrestrial ships had hovered ominously in the sky, a constant reminder of the looming threat. But the human race was not about to go down without a fight. Across the globe, the world's military forces had been mobilized, their finest weapons and technology readied for the impending clash. In the skies above the vast, sprawling cities, squadrons of advanced fighter jets waited in anticipation, their pilots' fingers poised on the triggers. On the ground, tanks and artillery pieces were positioned, their barrels trained skyward, ready to unleash a devastating barrage. General John Matheson, the seasoned commander who had spearheaded the defense strategy, stood in the central command center, his gaze fixed on the numerous screens and displays that monitored the situation. "All units, stand by," he ordered, his voice calm and composed. "The moment those alien ships make a move, we strike with everything we've got." The seconds ticked by in agonizing slowness, the air thick with tension. Then, without warning, the Caltheran vessels began to move, their sleek, otherworldly forms gliding effortlessly through the atmosphere. "They're on the move," one of the officers reported, his voice laced with a mixture of dread and adrenaline. "Engaging all defensive systems now." In a brilliant display of firepower, the human forces unleashed a barrage of missiles, lasers, and high-powered munitions, their advanced technology cutting through the sky with devastating precision. The roar of engines and the thunderous explosions echoed across the landscape as the epic battle commenced. The Caltheran ships, though clearly more technologically advanced, were not unscathed by the human assault. Their powerful energy shields managed to deflect and absorb much of the incoming fire, but the sheer volume and intensity of the attacks began to take a toll. "Keep the pressure on," Matheson commanded, his eyes narrowed in focus. "We can't let them gain the upper hand." The air was thick with the acrid scent of burnt metal and the deafening sounds of combat, but the human pilots and ground troops refused to be deterred. They fought with a ferocity born of desperation and a determination to protect their home. As the battle raged on, both sides suffered losses. Alien craft were brought down, their hulking forms crashing to the ground in a spectacular display of destruction. But the human forces were not spared either, as enemy weapons found their marks, decimating entire squadrons and leaving smoking craters in their wake. In the command center, the tension was palpable as the officers monitored the unfolding conflict. They could see the tide of the battle shifting, the scales tipping first one way, then the other, as the two sides traded blows. "Sir, we're sustaining heavy casualties," one of the officers reported, her voice tinged with a hint of panic. "I'm not sure we can hold out much longer." Matheson's jaw tightened, his mind racing to find a solution. He knew that the fate of the world hung in the balance, and he was determined to do whatever it took to ensure humanity's victory. "Keep fighting," he said, his voice resolute. "We can't give up now. We've come too far to surrender." Back in the skies and on the ground, the human forces rallied, their resolve strengthened by the general's unwavering leadership. They fought with a ferocity that belied their numerical and technological disadvantage, their weapons and tactics proving more adaptable and innovative than the Caltherans had anticipated. As the battle raged on, the very foundations of the earth seemed to tremble, the roar of the conflict echoing across the planet. The people of the world watched anxiously, their hearts racing with a mix of fear and pride as their fellow humans stood firm against the alien invaders. And in the end, as the smoke cleared and the dust settled, it became clear that this was not the decisive victory the Caltherans had expected. The human race had proven to be a formidable adversary, their resilience and ingenuity a force to be reckoned with. The stage was now set for the final showdown, where the fate of the world would hang in the balance, and the ultimate test of humanity's mettle would be put to the test. The battle had been raging for hours, with neither the human forces nor the invading Caltheran ships gaining a decisive upper hand. The skies above the earth were a chaotic swirl of energy beams, missiles, and the wreckage of destroyed craft. General John Matheson stood in the command center, his brow furrowed in concentration as he studied the data streaming in from the front lines. Despite the heavy losses sustained by the human forces, he refused to give in to despair. He knew that there had to be a way to turn the tide of the battle in their favor. "There has to be a weakness we can exploit," he murmured, his gaze fixed on the screens. Something we're missing. Suddenly, one of the scientists in the room let out an excited exclamation. "General, I think we've found it." Matheson turned his attention to the young researcher, his eyes widening with anticipation. "What is it?" "The Caltheran ships, they're powered by a unique form of energy that we've never encountered before," the scientist explained, her words tumbling out in a rush. "But our latest analysis suggests that this energy source is also their Achilles heel." The general leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Go on." "You see, the Caltherans have designed their ships to be virtually indestructible, with powerful energy shields and advanced armor plating," the scientist continued. "But these defenses are all dependent on that exotic energy source. If we can find a way to disrupt or overload it—" Matheson's eyes narrowed as the implications dawned on him. "Then their entire system would come crashing down," he finished, a glimmer of triumph in his voice. The scientist nodded, her expression eager. "Precisely. And we've already developed a prototype weapon that might be able to do the trick." Without wasting a moment, Matheson turned to the communications officer. "Get that information to all our forces immediately," he ordered. "I want them to focus their attacks on the Caltherans' power systems. We're going to turn this thing around." The officer hurried to relay the instructions, and within minutes, the human forces had adjusted their tactics. Fighter jets and ground-based artillery units began targeting the energy signatures emanating from the alien ships, their weapons calibrated to disrupt the Caltherans' exotic power source. At first, the results were mixed, with the human attacks seeming to have little effect on the enemy's defenses. But as the bombardment continued, something extraordinary began to happen. One by one, the Caltheran ships started to falter, their energy shields flickering and failing. Suddenly, the sleek, intimidating vessels were left vulnerable, their armor plates crumbling under the relentless barrage. "It's working," Matheson exclaimed, his voice triumphant. "Keep up the assault. Don't let up for a second." The human pilots and gunners redoubled their efforts, their faces set with determination. They knew that the fate of the world hung in the balance, and they were not about to let this opportunity slip through their fingers. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in the humans' favor. The Caltheran ships, once the embodiment of technological superiority, were now crippled and helpless, their crews struggling to maintain control. In the command center, the tension gave way to a sense of cautious optimism. Matheson and his team watched intently as the data poured in, their eyes widening with each passing minute. "Sir, the alien fleet is in full retreat," one of the officers reported, his voice tinged with disbelief. "They're abandoning their ships and fleeing the battlefield." Matheson allowed himself a rare smile, his shoulders relaxing ever so slightly. "Excellent work, everyone," he said, his voice firm and authoritative. "We've shown these Caltherans that they underestimated the human race. Now let's make sure they never come back." As the news of the human victory spread, the people of Earth erupted in celebration. Across the globe, crowds poured into the streets, waving flags and cheering with unbridled joy. The sense of unity and pride that had been forged in the heat of battle was palpable, a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. In the aftermath of the conflict, the world's leaders convened to discuss the implications of their triumph. They knew that this was just the beginning, that the Caltherans would likely return with even greater force. But for now, they savored the victory, confident in the knowledge that they had what it took to defend their home planet. As the sun set on the battered but victorious Earth, the people looked to the skies with a renewed sense of hope and purpose. They had proven their worth, and they were ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw their way. The skies above the Earth had been transformed into a chaotic battlefield, as the human forces engaged in a desperate struggle against the invading Caltheran ships. For hours, the two sides had traded blows, each side suffering heavy losses. But just when it seemed that the Caltherans might overwhelm the human defenses, a crucial turning point had occurred. The human commanders had discovered a weakness in the alien technology, a vulnerability that they could exploit to turn the tide of the battle. And now, as the sun began to set on the horizon, the results of that pivotal moment were becoming clear. The remnants of the Caltheran fleet were in full retreat, their sleek and powerful vessels crippled by the relentless barrage of human weapons. The once mighty alien ships were now limping away, their energy shields flickering and their hulls battered and scarred. In the command centers around the world, the human military leaders watched the unfolding events with a mixture of relief and triumphant pride. General John Matheson, the architect of the human defense strategy, stood tall, his expression grim but determined. "They're running," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've done it. We've beaten them back." Around him, the other officers and soldiers erupted in cheers and celebrations, their faces alight with the realization that they had achieved the impossible. They had faced down an alien threat that had seemed insurmountable, and they had emerged victorious. As the news of the human victory spread, the people of Earth erupted in joyous celebration. In the streets and town squares, crowds gathered, waving flags and chanting slogans of triumph. The sense of unity and pride that had been forged in the heat of battle was now palpable, a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. The world leaders, who had once grappled with the gravity of the situation, now found themselves basking in the glow of this extraordinary accomplishment. Statements of congratulations and admiration poured in from every corner of the globe, as the nations of the world recognized the bravery and ingenuity of their fellow humans. "This is a victory for all of humanity," the President of the United States declared in a televised address. "We have shown the universe that we are a force to be reckoned with, and that we will not back down in the face of adversity." The sentiment was echoed by leaders across the world, each one lauding the efforts of the brave men and women who had stood up to defend their home planet. It was a moment of unity and triumph, a testament to the power of human cooperation and determination. But even as the celebrations continued, the human commanders knew that this was just the beginning. The Caltherans had been driven back, but they would undoubtedly return, perhaps with even greater force. In the war rooms and command centers, the strategists and scientists were already hard at work, analyzing the data from the battle and devising new plans and technologies to counter the alien threat. They knew that the future of the human race was at stake, and they were determined to do whatever it took to ensure its survival. General Matheson, his face etched with a mixture of pride and resolve, turned to his team and addressed them in a clear, unwavering voice. "This is just the first step," he said. "The Caltherans may have retreated for now, but they'll be back. And when they do, we'll be ready. We've shown them what we're capable of, and we're not going to let them take our world without a fight." The officers and soldiers around him nodded in agreement, their expressions mirroring the general's determination. They knew that the battle was far from over, but they were more confident than ever in their ability to defend their home planet. As the night fell over the battered but victorious Earth, the people looked to the skies with a renewed sense of hope and purpose. They had proven their worth, and they were ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw their way. For now, they would savor the moment, rejoicing in their triumph over the alien invaders. But they also knew that the future was uncertain, and that the fight for the survival of humanity was far from over. The skies above the Earth have fallen silent, the once mighty Caltheran fleet having been forced into a hasty retreat. The human forces, battered but triumphant, now turned their attention to the aftermath of the epic battle that had gripped the world. In cities and towns across the globe, people emerged from their homes, their faces etched with a mix of relief, pride, and a lingering sense of disbelief. The realization that humanity had faced down an alien threat and emerged victorious was still sinking in. General John Matheson, the architect of the human defense strategy, stood amidst the rubble of a once bustling military base, his gaze sweeping across the scene of devastation. His expression was somber, tinged with a hint of sorrow, as he contemplated the cost of the victory. "Too many good people lost their lives today," he murmured, his voice weighed down by the gravity of the situation. "But their sacrifice will not be in vain." Around him, the cleanup and recovery efforts were underway, with teams of soldiers and civilian volunteers working tirelessly to clear the debris and provide aid to those in need. The streets were littered with the wreckage of destroyed tanks and aircraft, a sobering reminder of the intensity of the battle. Yet, despite the destruction, there was also a palpable sense of hope and determination in the air. The people of Earth had come together, united in their defiance of the alien invaders, and they were now determined to rebuild and move forward. In the halls of power, the world's leaders convened to discuss the implications of the victory and to plan for the future. They knew that the Caltherans would not give up easily, and that the battle was far from over. "We must be vigilant," the President of the United States said, her voice measured and resolute. "The Caltherans will undoubtedly return, and we must be ready to face them again." The other leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions grim but resolute. They had witnessed the human race's ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds, and they were confident in the resilience and ingenuity of their people. As the days turned into weeks, the recovery efforts continued, and the world began to heal. The fallen heroes were honored and commemorated, their names etched into the collective memory of humanity. Monuments were erected, ceremonies were held, and the people of Earth took solace in the knowledge that their loved ones had not died in vain. In the midst of the rebuilding and mourning, there was also a sense of excitement and anticipation. The battle with the Caltherans had spurred a wave of technological innovation and scientific discovery, as the world's brightest minds worked tirelessly to understand the alien technology and find new ways to defend against future threats. "This is just the beginning," one of the lead scientists declared, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and determination. The things we've learned from this encounter are going to change the course of human history. Indeed, the impact of the battle was far-reaching, extending beyond the military and into every aspect of society. New industries emerged, focused on developing advanced weapons and defense systems, while others shifted their attention to harnessing the power of the alien technology for more peaceful purposes. And as the world came together to heal and rebuild, a newfound sense of unity and purpose began to take hold. The people of Earth, once fragmented and divided, now stood as one, their shared experience of facing down an extraterrestrial threat having forged an unbreakable bond. General Matheson, now a revered figure among his countrymen, watched the unfolding events with a mix of pride and cautious optimism. He knew that the fight was far from over, that the Caltherans would return, and that the human race would need to be ever vigilant. But as he gazed out over the horizon, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the scared but resilient landscape, he couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. The human race had proven its worth, its ability to overcome even the most daunting of challenges. And as he turned to join the efforts to rebuild and prepare for the future, he knew that whatever lay ahead, the people of Earth would be ready to face it, united and undaunted.